Oftentimes on this channel, I mention that I'll revisit previous projects and let you guys know how they work out long term. A lot of times I throw stuff together in the garage and it comes out working fantastic and I never have to touch it again. But every once in a while, I make a big mistake. And in today's video, we're gonna go over and fix this mistake that could have caused a pretty serious accident, and hopefully we can all learn from my mistake. Welcome back to Machines Inc. I'm Jake, and today we're gonna be going over how I almost lit my Jeep Cherokee on fire. Long story short, I went to go do a snow recovery a couple weeks ago, and on the way heading up to the mountains, we started to notice a lot of smoke in the cab. And once we actually got to the recovery, the cab was completely filled out with smoke. It smelled like burning plastic. And when we jumped out, we realized there was a little small fire starting right underneath the passenger seat. So my buddy Carrie, that was sitting in the passenger seat, jumped out, grabbed a pile full of snow and shoved it underneath the seat, which cooled everything off and put out that fire for the time being. But we got really lucky. It could have been much worse. After the recovery, came home and upon some further inspection, started to look at it and realized the muffler was actually touching the seat mounting bolt that comes through the floor. And so the heat from the muffler was transferring to that bolt, and then that melted the carpet and the plastic trim. So first off, on the exhaust, when I got this Jeep, it had the muffler first and then the cat downstream from that. The catalytic converter is what's going to be the most restrictive and build the most heat. So if we have that downflow from the muffler, that's going to build heat in both the muffler and the cat. Versus when it's set up properly and we just have that cat in front, most of the heat's going to build up in the cat and the muffler won't get near as hot. Second off, we need the exhaust just to sit a little bit lower in the vehicle so it's further away from that bolt. And it was sitting close to that beforehand, but after I made that belly skid, I did test fit it and it fit fine previously, but I didn't test fit it after I put the extra ribs in it for a little extra strength. And that rib was about 3/4 of an inch tall, and that was just enough to push that muffler up to touch that seat bolt. So, in today's video, we're going to be modifying this exhaust, cutting it up and switching it around to the proper orientation. And then also, we're going to be modifying this skid plate to allow enough room for the exhaust to hang down where it needs to. And hopefully, we won't have any more issues with this Jeep catching on fire. A lot of times when you're watching YouTube videos, it seems like a lot of this stuff just goes together super easy and there's no issues. But that's the magic of editing. So today, we're addressing those issues. I'm calling myself out. I made a mistake, and we're going to fix it and go from there. Alright guys, so it's the next day and we got this exhaust all tacked up. So starting in the front here, we got a little V-band clamp. If you guys are curious how those work, I got another video when I built the exhaust for my van and used a couple of those and kind of explained them. But it's a quick disconnect so we can pop the rest of this exhaust off from the downpipe. Next up, we finally have our cat in the front like we wanted, then the muffler right after that. And the only portion that I kind of had to make up was this section right here. And essentially, I didn't have any 2 1/4 inch exhaust tubing, so I used this 2 1/2 inch that I had and kind of sleeved it over. And then this is just the factory in portion right here. So yeah, all tacked up. I'm gonna go through and weld this whole thing together now. Gonna be a combination of running some actual beads and doing some stitch welding in some thinner areas. And we'll get this thing all ready to rock and roll. So let's get to welding. All right, so we've got the exhaust on, it's looking good, and it's hanging about an inch below that seat bolt now. So we have good clearance from the floorboard to the muffler and cat, so it should be just enough of an air gap to not get too hot and cause that same issue we had before. So exhaust is done, I'm stoked on that. And next up is doing this skid plate. So I measured everything up, and essentially the cat and muffler sit about an inch below what the bottom of this skid plate is right now. So I'm gonna create pretty much like, think of a hood hump or a hood scoop like on a muscle car, but backwards. So I'm gonna cut a section out of this, make it swoop downwards to give a little bit of room. And then I'm gonna add some vent holes on there to be able to get a little bit more airflow up in the skid to be able to cool that cat and muffler. So right here are these ribs that I was talking about that I installed after I was done with the skid plate. And you can see here this little witness mark. This is actually where it was touching the muffler and pushing it up into the seat. So obviously these are going to be cut out. But when we create this upside down hood hump, essentially the bracing to fill that in is going to really add a lot of rigidity to this skid plate. So we're not really going to need those braces anymore anyways. But I just got to get to measuring everything up, trace it, and go ahead and start slicing. So after modifying the skid plate, throwing a final coat of paint on it, and then doing the final installation, I think we finally solved our issue. So starting off, we had a lot of heat building in this exhaust, which was transferring up through the floor into the cab of the vehicle that almost caused a fire and to burn down this whole Jeep. So to remedy this, we switched the exhaust around to have the cat in front. We dropped the whole exhaust system down an inch or so below the floorboard, and then we modified our skid plate not only to allow that exhaust to drop down further, but we added a good number of ventilation holes to hopefully increase the airflow around that cat and muffler to keep them a lot cooler. So what do you guys think? Do you think I'm still gonna have these issues with the heat transferring up into the floor? Let me know in the comments down below if you think I'm still gonna have issues, or let me know some recommendations on how to solve this to pull even more heat out of there. I got a few more ideas up my sleeve if we need to cool this thing down even more, but honestly, I think this is gonna do the trick and still provide plenty of undercarriage protection for that whole exhaust system and transfer case. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys do wanna follow me on Instagram, I'm at Machines Inc. Jake. If you guys like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you wanna see more fabrication and off-roading content. As always, guys, thanks for watching Machines Inc. We'll see you next time.